Hi, Dr. Nelson here from counselingtransforms.com, where we help our clients achieve their best self, better relationship, and a more balanced life. Today's topic is relationship poison, and this one is projection. Projection is a coping mechanism where our brain naturally fills in the blanks, but it ends up torturing us unnecessarily with our own imagination. So our brains are naturally geared to assess and scan for threats, and this is a survival skill when we're in the wild, but when we're not in the wild, what happens is most often is that my brain fills in the gaps with imaginary threats, and this can cause all kinds of trouble, from increasing anxiety, depression, relationship problems. And the reason for this particular video is because this is an issue that I'm seeing more and more when I'm working with couples and families. And the interesting thing about projection is it's me doing it, but I feel like you're doing it. And here's kind of how it works. So most of us know how to worry, but it's basically using my imagination to try to protect myself from something that isn't real in my present experience. Projection is like that. So basically what it is in most cases is I'm trying to protect myself from a perceived threat. It could be rejection, it could be hurt. I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be rejected, I don't want to be abandoned, those kinds of things. And then what my brain does, because it feels threatened, is it starts to fill in the blanks with imagination. So I want to prove to you, before I launch into the rest of this, that we do not have the capacity to read minds. So what I'm going to do is I am going to think of an animal. And when I do this with clients, sometimes I'll actually write it down, but I'm going to have you trust me. So I am thinking of an animal. Okay, what is it? Take a wild guess at it. It's a meerkat. So chances are you didn't guess it. So you can't read my mind. If you don't believe that this is true, then try it with friends and family. Just make them pick an obscure animal, and it'll prove pretty quickly that we can't actually read minds. The problem is, when I feel anxious, I start to have that threat response, and then my brain wants to protect me, so it will fill in the blanks with information that's really my imagination, and it feels real. So when we're projecting, it feels real, really, really real. Now, in severe cases like where there's trauma, what can happen is my amygdala can actually pull memory files that are emotional sensations, emotions, images, things like that, from, for example, post-traumatic stress kind of symptoms, into my present as if I'm experiencing them right now. That's this process, but a much higher level. But most of us project, at least to some degree. Some of the circumstances where you might have seen this is if you or someone else says, hey, I know what you're thinking, I know what you're feeling, or they'll even tell us, you know what, you're angry because of this. When in reality, I need to tell them, you know, I'm angry and here's why, because we can't read minds. Let's just face it, we really can't. Sometimes we feel like we can, but we can't. Here's the kicker for that too, is when I'm sensing something, like let's say that you're upset, and I might be able to sense that, then my mind will want to fill in the blanks. And for example, if I'm self-critical, what I'll do is my brain will imagine that you're upset because of something that I did, when you may in fact be upset, but you need to tell me why. So for example, you might be upset because your boss yelled at you. You might be upset because you got a speeding ticket coming over. You might be upset because you threw your back out and you're having back spasms. I don't know why. I might be able to sense something, like that you're upset, that you're angry, something like that. But unless you tell me why it is, I can't tell for sure. So I need to basically take you at face value. However, when I feel threatened, when I feel afraid, when I'm scared of being hurt or rejected, then my brain wants to protect itself, so it will fill in those imaginary things. Here's a true life scenario where, with a couple where this actually played out. So a guy has been at work, he comes home, and his wife's at home with their young child, and then when he walks in the door, she says, you don't care as much about us as you do about work. And guy had just stopped on the way home and got his wife, her significant other, some of her favorite food. He's got it in his hand, so he thought about her. He cared. That was proof that he cared. comes in the door, and because she had been projecting, she assumed that he didn't care, and so she kind of went at him with the you statement right in the beginning of that and says, basically, I'm paraphrasing it, making it shorter, you don't care. Well, typically what guys would do then is respond with, that's not true, and then now we got to fight. So the issue became, as this couple worked through this particular incident, the woman in this case actually missed him and wanted to spend some quality time. Quality time is one of her love languages. But what happened was, as we processed through this, though, the woman in this case was actually uncomfortable with feeling vulnerable. She didn't like it, and that was because of her own family of origin issues. And instead of feeling vulnerable, like I feel lonely, she instantly turned it into anger using a judging thought against the guy. So she made an assumption about his motives and his feelings and his intentions. And it was her imagination trying to protect her from, in this case, feeling vulnerable. Now, let's play this scenario out. So you've got these two people, and one of them is like, you don't care. What's a reaction going to be on the other side? Usually defensive, right? So it'll be like either, now I'm angry because the person just accused me or made a you statement, or I'll try to rebut it with facts. That's not true because of this. For example, here's your favorite food. So I do care. But that doesn't usually work out well. So projection is gridlock, it's checkmate, it's game over. So when I'm projecting onto you, for example, let's say that I'm feeling insecure and I project onto you, you hate me. You can't prove that you don't hate me. You could say, no, I don't hate you. Then I can counter with, they're just lying, they're just being nice. So I will find a way to maintain that delusional bubble of projection, and there's no way through it. It has to be dropped from the inside. Think of projection as a delusional force field that is impervious. Nobody can get through it, and the keypad to drop the shield and punch the code in is on the inside. That's the way projection works. Projection is common. It's really my brain trying to protect me from a perceived threat. The problem is it's really bad for relationships because it stops everything right in their tracks. There's no way around it. It's checkmate. Game over. So one of the ways that you can get around projection, if you know that you're prone to it, is to start verbalizing what you're imagining, because let's face it, it is imagination. This is something that I do routinely, is I'll say, I'm imagining blah, 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 blah. So like, I'm imagining that you're angry with me. And then you can tell me what's really going on. Either you are angry with me, that is, or something else happened, like your boss yelled at you and you're upset about that. But either way then, I need to learn to take you at your word unless I have a really good reason not to. This will dramatically improve communication, and therefore can also dramatically improve relationships. With projection, it is relationship poison and to be avoided. So instead of projecting, what I need to do is recognize when I'm triggered, when I feel fear or anxiety or something, communicate that if at all possible. Remember the I feel, I want or need statements from a previous video. That's a great way to do this. You can also do the I am imagining kind of a statement. So I'm imagining that you're angry, I'm imagining that you don't care, those kinds of things, and then take what the other person says at face value. If you feel like you can read minds, do that thing. Have somebody pick an obscure thing or animal, see if you can guess what it is. That's a reality check sometimes when we feel like we can know what somebody else is thinking or feeling, that can kind of pop us out of it too. So it's just a simple exercise that helps put things back in perspective. But instead of projecting, unless you want somebody out of your life, because it'll gridlock them out, try the I feel, I need statements, try communicating directly, try letting them tell you what they're thinking, feeling, or what their motives are. And unless you have a great reason not to believe them, take it at face value, because that projection feeling is just that. It's just a feeling. It feels real, but my feelings do not always at least, accurately represent what's really going on out there. So try that, cut down on the projection, and see what happens in your relationships and your communication, and I bet you'll see that they'll improve rather substantially if you're good at projection and you do it a lot. And if not, it'll just improve the quality of relationships. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.